Hey everyone, this is Paul Bauer, and in this video what I want to share with you is how to move past the limits of your mind and tap into this incredible thing known as your heart. And I'm not talking about just the physical heart. I'm talking about the heart that almost no one understands. And think about it this way. You were born with a heart, and yet where's the owner's manual for it? This world that we're in worships the mind. You know, we're in a very mind-based culture in the United States and all the other countries of the world. And yet, where do you find courses? Where do you find anything that has to do with these spiritual, these deeper properties of this sacred energy within you called your heart? So again, it's not just the physical heart. This is something that gives you the passion that you want most in life. It gives you the energy that you want most in life. It gives you the limitless amount of energy that can be had, but not if you start from here and stay up there. You know, you get really exhausted when you use just your mind. But when you put your heart and soul into it, right? Remember that phrase. You told that to many people in your life, or you've heard it many times. When your whole heart and soul is into it, it doesn't take nearly the amount of energy, and you can stay the course. So let's talk about some of the salient things having to do with your heart. First of all, when you think about it, the number one cause of stress and disconnection and unhappiness in our lives is the over-reliance on the mind. And this is super important to understand, because if you think too much, if you are ever stressed, if you ever get caught up in it's the same old thing, the same old stuff, that's the number one sign you're up in your mind. So I'm going to share with you an exercise towards the end of this video of how to step out of that busy mind, tap into the power of your heart, and start reconnecting this connection between the mind and heart so you become one again. And there's a phrase that describes that. It's called the heart mind. Now, if there's anything that you want to aim towards in life, is to be one with your heart mind. Not just focusing on just what you need and what you want and what you haven't gotten and all the stuff from the past that never happened or disserved you or hurt you in some way, but how to become one within yourself, inside of you, in such a way that nothing can touch you, that you become so immune to the outside effects of the world that you recharge yourself just by being in this heart mind. Stay with me, and I'll share with you how to do this. So, what I call the great imbalance in our culture is that we've learned to worship the mind, literally. Think about it. Everything from when you were born till this point in your life has been a mind-based culture. When you were a kid, you were taught to go to school, but before you went to school, it was learning while you sat there and your mom or your dad said, good boy, good girl. In other words, you're smart. That was coming from your heart. Very few kids are ever taught the power of their hearts or their imagination. The imagination doesn't come from the brain, by the way. It comes from something deeper within you. So the imbalance in our culture is that we've been worshiping this thing called the mind for so long that we have forgotten the power of our hearts. Now, why is that a problem? It's because your heart is the thing that gives you all the joy, all the pleasure, all of the joie de vivre, you know, that real deep feeling of accomplishment, of fulfillment. When you go to sleep at night, you have a smile on your face when you hit the pillow, right? So if you take time to tap into your heart, you start opening up your energy. You start rejuvenating yourself, because honestly, your heart, as I was just sharing with several of my private clients in a course that we were teaching the other night, your heart is the wellspring. It is the reservoir. It is the inner source of rejuvenation. Yep. Yeah. You want to get younger? Pay attention to your heart. Let go of your mind. Let go of all the trappings of the mind. So, you know, I've been sharing this with a lot of my clients, a lot of people over this past couple years. Seriously, where do you go for trainings on the heart? I mean, there really aren't many in this world. When my partner Susan Castle was alive, I was one of her number one students without even having to go to class all the time. And I was not used to a thing called unconditional love or the power of the heart. I used to kind of diss it. I used to kind of go, yeah, it sounds good, almost like, new agey stuff. But that was because I was not in touch with the powers of the divine feminine or the power of the heart. So what's the divine feminine? Think about it. Whether you're a male or female, this world is based on a paternal driven society. In other words, it's male energy. Go out and get it. Set your goals. If you're knocked down, get up again and keep pushing, keep pushing. That's very male dominated. To balance that out, I'm not talking about going all the way to divine feminine. What I'm saying is step into something a little more subtle. How do you feel? What are you saying to yourself in this world about what you've just done? Are you judging yourself? That is very up in the mind, by the way. The heart never judges. The heart is unconditional. How are you responding to how life is saying things to you? Are you saying, oh, life has really pushed me back, it's screwed me, it's unfair, life just doesn't give me what I want? Or maybe, secondarily, you step back a little bit and you go, you know what? I'm learning through this. This is really good stuff. It's not easy, but at least I pay attention to my feelings. And the only way you can do that is you start opening your heart to yourself. So most people, as we've discussed, have not been trained on how to pay attention to this thing within the heart. And we're going to talk about it more as we go in this video. So there's two kinds of heart. One is your human heart. The other is your spiritual heart. Your human heart is the one that pumps blood. It sends out energy to the rest of the body. It can be counted by beats per minute, etc. Your spiritual heart has no boundaries, no limitations. When you think of the heart in this domain, in this realm, it's where you park your soul. When you come into this life, that first beat comes from somewhere. I ask this question to people all the time. Where do you think that beat comes from? Where does that spark come from? You could say God. You could say, spirit, universe, right? That instant when that first beat happens, it doesn't go to the brain. It replenishes the heart through its first beat. That's called the embryonic heartbeat. That is a miracle of the highest order. So that's the part you want to pay attention to the most. Despite let's just be nice about this and say, despite the flawed trainings in our world that have us pay attention to everything else but the heart. Your heart processes your emotions. Your heart is the source of all the love in your life. It's where your passion and creativity come from when you think about it, When you want to create anything of worth, more than just, let's say, your job, like a 9-to-5 thing where you're just kind of going through the motions. There's really not a lot of heart in that. But when you start getting creative, when you need to get creative, you need to tap into your heart. This is seriously the most practical thing you can do for yourself. And yet, when people hear about the heart, they go, it's not practical. That is a flawed perception. That is a false premise. Unfortunately, most people believe in that, and they're never truly satisfied. And they go to the grave with the song still in their heart. So society just doesn't know, because people are using their mind as if it was the only source of insider answers. They stay in this thing called the island of the known. In other words, that place of familiarity. Think of it in terms of a comfort zone. If you've watched my videos before, I talk a lot about the comfort zone. Hey, I've got my own, right? But whenever I start coming in touch with the boundaries of that comfort zone, what happens is I have a feeling. It's a little bit of fear. It's a little bit of uncertainty. It's a little bit of, oh boy, how's this going to work? Is it going to work? I don't know. That's my reminder to let go of my mind, breathe into my heart and say, okay, cool. You know what? I get it. That's my ego. I would like you to understand how to discern between your ego and your heart, your ego and your spirit. Your ego drives you to do things you don't want to do and then regrets things even after you've done them. It says, let's go out and make more, have more, be more, do more. It's a very driving thing. I'm not saying the ego's bad. What I'm saying is bring some balance into your life and let your heart speak, even if your heart's been hurt in the past. Now, we're not talking about relationships per se. I'm talking about when you were in the world doing what you could do as best, right? You did your best, and yet something didn't work right. Maybe your ego stepped back and said, oh, that's never going to work. And it created a belief and maybe a guard around your heart. Sometimes those are appropriate. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes those heart guards, those shields around your heart, can stop you from doing the very things that you love doing most. I'm here to share with you that the heart guards are only there as long as you need them. So, the more guards you have around your heart, the more that you listen to your mind at the expense of your heart, it creates what I call the silenced heart. The problem with the silenced heart is that you're not yourself. You are a facsimile. You are just like, it's like, yeah, I wish I coulda, shoulda, Those kind of things, those are regrets. Those are based on things that your mind said, yep, you didn't do that. And you're self-judging now anyway. When the heart gets silenced, that's when you literally start shutting yourself down. You can't function in life the same way. It's like you're a facsimile of your true self. To come back into your authentic, genuine, whole self, you need to let go of the ego mind, start delving into and past the layers of these heart guards and heart shields. How do you do that? I'll share with you in just a couple minutes. And this will be like step one. Everything takes practice, by the way. There's no one video, there's no one course that's going to help you become instantly enlightened. And by the way, that's a farce to begin with, because what is enlightenment? It's not the goal. It's being present with how you're feeling right now. So when you let go of the trappings of your mind, you start letting your heart speak. It's no longer silenced. And you start listening to yourself. What are symptoms of a silenced heart? Feeling burned out, relationship problems, money and abundance issues. Think about it. Feelings of anxiety and worry, feelings of scarcity and not enough, lack of purpose and fulfillment. That's a mouthful right there. And yet people live through those litany of symptoms on almost a daily basis, if not in 1 week. So how do you solve the silenced heart? You step into the heart mind, as I mentioned to you before. How do you do that? 3 simple steps. So if you're listening to this as a video, I want you to take some time in between each of these steps and pause the video, all right? Number 1, take time several days to check in with yourself and see how you're feeling. You might have been watching my videos for years. That's literally the first and most important step. And yet how many times do people not do it? It's fundamental that you must check in and see, ask this question, how am I feeling? If you need to, close your eyes. Get in touch with yourself. Beyond your mind, get back into your body. Listen, feel. Where do you feel these feelings? Is it in your heart? Is it in your gut? Is it in your belly? Is it in your back, your neck? You know, it might be in your temples. Wherever it is, the time that you take to do this first and most important step is now you're becoming present with yourself. Whoa, man, this is huge. If you have the power of now, if you haven't read all 256 pages of the book, what if the only thing you did was to start paying attention to how you feel? That is to be present with yourself. It's also blessing and loving yourself. So really, this first step of checking in with how you're feeling is the first and most important step of self-love. If you kind of push that away and you go, that's kind of mamby-pamby, then that's self-judgment, and you'll never understand the true powers of your heart. On the other hand, if you believe that your heart is your driving force, that it is your true guide, then this first step is incredibly important. And you're going to be pretty darn satisfied if you only did just this first one. The next step is, whenever you feel stressed or anxious, it's the invitation to tune back into your heart. It's telling you you're not in your heart. Yeah, let me get that straight. So whenever I'm stressed, Paul, I'm up in my mind? Yep. And I'm not in my heart? Yep. Oh, well, wait, it's too painful to check in with my feelings. Is that you that's saying that, or is that your ego? Take a slow, deep breath. Oh, wow. Is that what he means between the ego and my heart? Because the softer I am with myself, those mind chatters of, you can't do this, this isn't practical, what good is this, there's no time to do it, this isn't going to work for me, why even try or why even bother? All that's the ego mind. Interesting. Wow. So it also means that when you are doing this, that when you're checking in, when you're stressed or anxious, it automatically is a reminder to come back into your heart. That's self-love. And it's regenerative. So what I mean by that is, it's regenerative self-trust. The more that you practice it, it creates a stronger field within yourself. It's a cause set in motion. You know, anything that you've started out doing for the first time, you didn't learn it all at once. You had to practice. This is a skill that is a life skill, that the more that you practice this and you master it, this is going to be one of the greatest things that you ever do for yourself. Even if your ego doesn't believe in it. Even if your mind believes that nah, this is just mamby-pamby stuff. Again, that is ego mind stuff. It's time to let go because this is the age of the heart. It's time to step into the limitless powers of your heart. The third step is to allow yourself to fully feel your feelings. So let's just do this right now. Close your eyes. Check in with how you're feeling. Tune into your body now. Like, in other words, get out of your mind and get into your heart. Let your heart scan your body. If this is a challenge for you, imagine breathing right into your heart. And I mean a centered breath. The breath comes from the belly. The heart is the access point to the breath. And notice when I say on the out breath, in Hawaiian they call that the ha right. What that means is that is the emanation of the breath. You can't live without breathing. The inhalation is coming from pure source, God, universe, creator energy. The exhalation is letting go of that which is no longer yours. If you're stressed, take a deep breath and then release it and send it back to source, back to God. It's not yours any longer, unless, of course, you choose to suffer, unless, of course, you choose to be stressed. Paul, come on, you don't understand me. Actually, I do. I've been 64 years on this planet. I get it. I get that we all get stressed. The times when we are stressed is we are breathing shallow. We're breathing up in our chest. We're breathing much, much faster than we should. In a future video, I'll teach you about the serenity breath. It is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself. In the meantime, this is the core of it. And when you practice this, again, tune back in. Try it again. Scan your body and be mindful. In other words, become aware of how you're feeling. What do you notice inside of your body? Is there any agitation? Is there any unrest? Is there any stuck energy? Because if there is, I can promise you this, that energy wants and needs release. And when it releases, you're going to get your energy back. You're going to get your power back. In future videos, I will explain what I mean by that. It is profoundly powerful. So, if you ever need help with this, what I would suggest is taking your hands and placing them on your heart. So if you look at me on this video now, like I just once in a while do this, like I'll put both hands on my heart because that's like really sacred, right? So I'm really tuning in now. And my hands are kind of like scanning my whole body through my heart. This doesn't take years of practice. This takes just moment to moment. You can do this, my friend. So you can literally scan your whole body. Any pain, any unrest, any symptoms of not feeling quite right. This is really important to do this several times a day, not just once. This is not just a meditation. This is checking with yourself frequently throughout your day. The more you practice, the more skill, the more regenerative trust that you're building within yourself. And after a while, you're going to get so good at this that you'll be like, whoa, the stress isn't there anymore. My passion has clicked up 2 or 3 levels. I'm more loving. I'm noticing that the people in my life are noticing, hey, what are you doing? I'm feeling good about myself. Is your response? They'll be like, yeah, but what are you doing differently? Oh, I just use a real simple step process of breathing, checking in with myself, tuning into my feelings. Well, that sounds pretty ordinary. Oh, I forgot one thing. It's tapping into my heart. Because you're wondering, should I tell that to my friend? Well, the crazy thing is that we don't talk about the heart enough. Why? Is it a trite-ism? Is it something that has become so jaded that we forget to talk about it? Not when it comes to super important things, when it comes to love, when it comes to passion. What I'm suggesting to you is that you start involving your heart in more things in your daily life, that you think from your heart, that you emanate from your heart, that you be your heart. So as we start concluding here, the great imbalance in life is the over-reliance on the mind, but it's also because the mind thinks that it needs to avoid the pain. It thinks that it needs to create a stasis, like a safety zone. But that's what creates the disconnection from your heart, when it avoids pain. Think of this. Any time in your life when you've avoided that thing that you feared, Pain is a great thing that causes a lot of concern and fear in people's lives. So if you keep pushing it away, you give it power. This is huge. The more you push something away, you've heard the phrase, the more you resist, it persists. I'm going beyond the trite phrase. I'm going back into the core of how we feel. In my life, anytime I've been super stressed about any one thing, it reminds me to pay attention and ask myself, how much of my power have I given to this thing? Oh, wow. Huge. It's just huge. So the more you avoid pain, it creates a disconnection in your heart. And the more you breathe into and allow yourself to feel any pain, any discomfort, any stress that you might feel, now you begin to master it. You begin to see it for what it truly is. You become aware. And the more you open your heart and you reconnect to your mind, now the two of them begin to work together again. And I call it the heart mind, as I mentioned to you earlier. And it's our natural state. But as we got older, we lost connection to this precious, innocent, and loving part of ourselves. Some people say, oh, well, that's a little too, that's too naive, Paul. I've been called naive many, many times. And you know what? I love it. I love being called naive because I haven't forgotten my innocence. What if you've forgotten yours? You can return to it. You can rediscover it. You can open up your innocence again. Innocence meaning your imagination, your self-love, your joie de vivre of what life truly is. So this heart mind is one of the most practical things you can do for yourself. In other words, every decision you need to make in life, if it comes only from the mind, you're only using half of your energy. It's actually less than half of your energy. But when you tap into your heart mind, it's imagine like, when you want to move forward, you don't just move forward with your mind, you move forward with your heart and your mind. Look at any great athlete. The ones that become the greatest, the ones that become the legends, they come from their heart. They love the game. Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, you name any of the greatest in any sport, you'll hear from them that they truly love what they do. Love does not come from the mind. It comes from your heart. And it's proved by research. When you tune into the heart mind, you literally start deactivating the fight or flight response. In other words, when all that cortisol starts pumping up in your system and creating all that extra stress after the initial stress, it's not meant to stay on. But the more that you're in fight or flight, the more that you're shallow breathing, the more that you're up in your mind, you're disconnecting from your heart. Instead, when you do this little process that we shared, the more that you're awakening your mind, you're tuning into your heart, it literally opens up and sends energy up into the brain, and you become more awake, more clear, more focused. You have more clarity to move forward and make the best decisions. But more importantly, on the inside, that you're giving the love back to yourself, maybe that you've given to other people. It's okay to do it for yourself now, especially if you're a giver. So as we close here, without love and joy, which comes from where? The heart, not the mind. Life becomes one-dimensional. Do you want to live in one-dimensional nature? In other words, just up in your mind? Or do you want to become whole again? Do you want to become yourself again? This is not something that you're going to learn from somebody else. Your heart has lessons, has wisdom, has depth, has profound experiences that you can't even imagine right now. But when you let go of your mind and you tap into this limitless nature of your heart, you become whole again. So, in closing, I don't just wish, may you live from your heart mind. May you come from that place of stillness and wholeness within you. And may all be well in your heart and your mind. So be it now.